All right, those of you who are here, why don't you come on over here? You can log off the Google Meets now. All right, gosh, nothing like some technical difficulties to start off your day. Okay, so yesterday we talked about your new project, the kurinuki box. And so the purpose of this assignment is to teach you this new technique, this carving technique, where you're starting with a solid block of clay and then cutting off a lid and then hollowing it out from the inside. And so yesterday you shaped it, and today you might be doing a little bit more shaping because today is kind of your last day to do the shaping. Because once you've chopped the lid off and started to hollow it out, we can't have it change shape anymore after that. So any fine tuning that you want to do on the shape you want to do today. So that might mean doing a little bit more paddling. I actually just paddled it this morning now that the clay is really firm and leather hard. I paddled it and the edges are so much sharper today because the clay is stronger and holds its shape better. But if you're doing something that's round or heart-shaped or kind of weird blobby kind of shaped, maybe you want to use your scraper today and really refine that shape with the scraper. Use a slightly damp sponge if you want to smooth things out. But you don't want to introduce too much moisture. So just slightly damp to smooth things up and just really make that outside look the way you want it to look. Somebody I don't remember if it was this hour or my second hour, asked if you could add other features to the outside. Absolutely you can. You can add other features. You're going to have to add a handle because that's one of the requirements, and that's going to come after we've chopped the lid off and after we started hollowing things out. But if you want to add other additional features to the outside, that is totally great. I guess I would wait to do that until you've done all the carving, so that, because as you're doing your carving, you're maybe going to be setting this on its side, and we don't want to dent any additional features that you want to add. So definitely you can add other designs, just maybe not yet. Okay, so I'm really pretty happy with how this is looking. And one of the things that I thought about, I'm going to hold this up maybe so you can see it a little bit better. See how there's almost kind of an undercut? I tried to paddle it down here at the bottom so that the form comes in at the bottom to make it look lighter. It's incredibly heavy right now. It's as heavy as a real rock. But by simply paddling that little bit of an undercut down there, it just makes it look a little bit lighter. So if you're carving, if you're paddling, if you're doing any of that stuff, maybe consider doing a little bit of carving or a little bit of shaping down here at the bottom before you move on to the next step. And those of you who are here, I have additional paddles that you can use on that table if that's a technique that you used. Okay, so I'm ready to do the big step into cutting this lid off. So I have my wire cutter that is the same one that you have in the swag bag. And I kind of have to decide where my lid is going to be cut. I guess I could cut it right in the middle, but if I cut it right in the middle, I'm going to lose some storage space. If I cut it about 2/3 of the way up, I have more storage space, and then I have a little bit of a dome in the lid as well. So I would say you could cut it in the middle, but I might suggest doing it about 2/3 of the way up would be my recommendation. And in the video yesterday, the volcano that Irish woman made, she cut her lid, which was essentially the bottom of the pot, way down here in the bottom third. So that's an option too, especially if you're going to be lifting a dome off and putting an incense cone in there. That might be something you want to consider, is cutting it lower. But mine is going to be a garlic box, so I'm going to cut it higher. So I'm going to try to cut as straight as I can. Ooh. So my clay is really dry leather hard, which is good, but it means that the string is not cutting through super easily. I'm going to need somebody's help. Lauren, can you come around and hold this for me? So people who are at home, you might need to get an assistant. Just hold the top, please. Thank you. So that you can focus on cutting. And they can focus on holding. Thank you. All right, so that worked. Now, when I lift this off, there's my nice clean lid, and I want to make sure I don't disturb this or change the shape at all. So I have a towel standing by, and I'm just going to set that lid on the towel for now. Now my next step is to measure in about 1/2 inch on each side. So I'm going to take my ruler, and you can use a toothpick to do this. I'm going to make a mark that's going to define the edges of my walls so I don't cut too far. It's going to be a guideline all the way around. I'm measuring in about 1/2 inch, and I'm doing it on each of the sides. Okay, so that's what that looks like. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my lid, because I'm going to have to hollow out the lid too. So the hollowing out, or the carving, the kurinuki, the subtractive bit that you're going to be doing, is going to be done in stages. So today I'm mapping it out. Today I'm going to get the majority of the carving done, or like kind of the bulk of the carving. And then tomorrow, when the inside has firmed up a little bit, then I'm going to finish my carving and kind of make it look a little nicer. But today it's important to get it mapped out. Okay, so there's the lid. So now I get to do the carving step. So everybody should have a ribbon tool at home. I would say it doesn't really matter which end you use. I'm going to start, I guess, with the straight end, this end that's more like a triangle. And I'm just going to kind of grasp it with my fist and cut just inside that line that I drew, so that I can safely define where my walls are. And then the inside, I can be a lot more kind of quick and sloppy with my carving, but my edges, I need to be really cautious so I don't end up cutting too far. So I'm going to continue. Now I'm going to cut carefully along the edge again, a little bit deeper. And you'll notice I'm kind of always just holding the tool in the same spot, and then I'm turning my project. That seems to work pretty well to help you keep your carving really controlled and consistent. And then I'm going to hack away at the center again, where I don't need to be quite as careful. Obviously, as you get closer to the bottom, you're going to need to be very careful. All these bits, by the way, that I've been carving out, it might be smart to maybe have just a baggie or an empty container to throw that into. Don't throw it in your slip container. That's going to mess up your slip. If you have your recycle bag handy, you can throw it in there. But you're not going to be able to reuse this clay. It's kind of in that leather hard stage. And so since this is your last project, conserving that clay is not the #1 necessity. So I'm just going to continue to carve away the center. Again, I can be a little bit more rough about. I'm using more care and more caution around the walls. Now I have walls that change angle. So there might be a point where my wall angles in and I have to be kind of careful that I don't cut too deeply. So I carve through. Although if you do carve through, you just patch it from the inside and then repaddle or rescrape or resmooth the outside. I think it's going to be fixable, especially if your clay is still in that leather hard stage. So I would just keep carving down little by little by little by little. It's going to take a while. So I'm not going to carve the whole thing in front of you. I think you get the idea. But I do have to also carve into my lid. So I'm going to do a little bit of carving there. This is obviously a smaller shape. So I want to be kind of careful how deeply I carve, because it's going to be a lot easier to cut through this accidentally as you're doing this carving. So same thing. I'm being a little bit more careful in this center bit here. And I'm going to continue to take that down little by little by little. And I'm just really going to try and pay attention with my fingertips to feel the thickness between what I've carved and what's on the outside. So your fingertips are going to have to get kind of good at gauging space and how much space is between them. Another way that you can gauge the thickness and tell how close you are to breaking through is you can use your toothpick or your paper clip. And here's my paper clip. So you can do that same trick that you did for the plate project. I'm going to go back to this. And move this closer so you can see it better. So you can take your paper clip and actually pierce through your wall. And so I'm going to do that right now, just to the point where I see the paper clip start to come out. And then if I put my fingers and kind of pinch on the paper clip where the inner part of my wall was, that tells me how thick my wall is. And so, and that's really easy to fix. You just blend in that little hole that you've created. So that's a way to tell if you're really close to breaking through. If you feel like you might be kind of close, you're a little worried, that wall's getting a little bit wobbly, test it and be sure. So then you know that you can stop carving. So your goal for today is to get the whole inside of this carved out, the whole inside of your lid carved out. And when you get to that point today, then let's make sure this still fits on here. Okay. Then put the lid back on, bag it up tight this time, because we want to kind of keep it in this dry leather hard stage. We don't really want it to dry out anymore, because tomorrow we're going to finish carving and we're going to add your flange, because it is going to be a requirement to add your flange. And then also tomorrow we're going to add your creative handle on top. So things still need to be joinable, and so we can't let it dry out all the way. And honestly, if your clay feels like it's bone dry today, those of you at home, if your clay is bone dry, you can't use this tool to carve it. I'm sorry, but it'll wreck the tool. This tool is only meant to go through leather hard clay or plastic clay. If things are bone dry, just own up to it and just make a new block of clay today. Let it set out for maybe an hour, set a timer, come back to it, and then you can do the carving for today too. If you didn't do yesterday's assignment, shape your thing first, let it set out for an hour to firm up, and then carve. Don't just make it and start carving. It'll be too soft. So that is your process for today. What I would like to see for your assignment is a photo that looks something like this, that shows me what you carved in the inside and in the lid. So the lid will be off. And then when you wrap it up, make sure you put that lid back on and bag it up tight. Okay, that's our process for today. And for those of you who are hybrid and will be here tomorrow, bring this back with you tomorrow. Wrap it up in your bucket or your box, wrap it up in a bag, cushion it with a bunch of bags around it, bring it back here so you can work on the next steps here. Okay? You guys can go ahead and get started working. I'll be able to check in and see if you have any questions in a little bit. People who are at home,